Minder, Acting Deputy Director General, Head of Task Force on Migration Management. The German Presidency, represented by Mr. Ulrich Weinbrenner, Director General for Migration, Refugees and Returns of the Federal Ministry of Interior, German Government. Mr. Manos Logothetis, Secretary General for Reception, Ministry of Migration and Asylum. Mrs. Nina Gregori, good friend of us, Director of EASO, and Aurélie Pontieu, Coordinator of the Forced Migration Team, Médecins Sans Frontières. It's about the newly established camp of Kara Tepe after the destruction of Moria, Greek islands situation, current situation in the Kara Tepe camp, which is the following chapter. As to Moria, no more Morias, we said, but there we see some surrogate of Moria by the name of Kara Tepe camp coming up, and future challenges for asylum migration management in the Greek islands. So, I'm sure you know that we had an emergency evacuation of the Moria camp. We urged accelerate relocation from the Greek islands. We welcome all relevant solidarity at site. We have a lot of legislative work to go through as we have the new Migration and Asylum Pact with 5 pieces of legislation. But please, as we know that Mr. Weinbrenner is to leave us shortly, I suggest we get started with Mr. Weinbrenner. The scheduled time for each and every one of the 5 speakers is 5 minutes. But if you make it less, surely that'll help. Because as I said, we are in real trouble. There will be surely a round of speakers, and then supposedly you would be given the floor back for short replies. So please help us. It's not comfortable for neither of us, but this is how it is. The schedule is like this. So
Mr. Weinbrenner is not yet connected, so we start with Mr.
I see. Mr. Weinbrenner is not even connected yet. So we go with Mrs. Gminder. Okay, Mrs. Gminder, you will have the first floor. Have in mind, if you make it in less than 5 minutes, that'll help. The floor is yours.
I get a prize if I do that. Thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me. And thank you for having the opportunity to speak to you today as the newly appointed head of the Task Force for Migration Management, with a very specific job allocation of the President of the Commission herself, who wants us to implement a joint pilot with the Greek authorities for new reception facilities on Lesbos after the devastating fires in Moria. As you know, and as we have reported to this Parliament, we have been very quickly supporting the Greek authorities in this immense challenge to set up a temporary new camp as quickly as possible and to give people shelter, and this was achieved in very quick times. We have helped to transfer the remaining UAMs, the unaccompanied minors that were still in the reception facility, to the mainland, and we continue to also look for relocation with member states of these unaccompanied minors. We also had additionally relocation pledges for families with recognition status who are now also in the process of being transferred away from the island to the receiving countries, mainly Germany. More broadly than after the fire, the President decided, also in cooperation with the Greek Prime Minister, to set up this task force to help in a more strategic way and in a structured way with all the EU forces at hand, the Greek authorities, in building a new permanent reception facility with sufficient capacity to host people according to EU standards, and to prevent that any new Morias are going to happen. We are working very closely together, therefore, on a memorandum of understanding to achieve this joint pilot and to allocate who does what. I'm very happy that a lot of people are very keen to work within the task force, and I have very good cooperation also with the partners, namely the EU agencies, and you will hear Nina Gregori in a few minutes, but also with other EU agencies that are relevant, namely Europol and Frontex. And obviously the member states are very supportive, and we're very grateful to that. The key challenge remains to make the camp winter safe and to also continue to transfer people to the mainland so that the remaining population has a decent place to live. I think we can be happy that over the past months many transfers have taken place and the islands have already been decongested by half of the population. So currently, you know, on Lesbos, and I've been there already 3 times now, you have 9,504 refugees still remaining, and most of them are in the temporary Mafrovuni camp, but others are also in apartments and other facilities on the island. You have a accommodation possibility for 10,000 people. As you've seen, this is intense. Therefore, this is definitely temporary, and the reception conditions of the EU foresee that permanent facilities have to be built. These tents have, however, also thanks to the international organizations, and particularly UNHCR, been winterized, and we hope that they will withstand the Aegean weather in the future, because, as you know, at a very early stage, there was already a storm that created difficulties. Also, having said that we are trying hard, and the Secretary General will give you an update on also improving the sanitary conditions of the camp to help. I have been there last time also in view of meeting all the actors on the grounds. There's a very active NGO population supporting and helping, and I want to thank them for being so supportive to the camp population and to the authorities. From what I've heard, there is still some work to be done to identify the last vulnerables and to help them, but generally I have to say there is also a sufficient presence of health staff at the moment. There is great support of the WHO, of the Médecins du Monde, and also outside the camp of Médecins Sans Frontières, and this has been very helpful to the Greek doctors that are also there. So more to do. We're ready to get started and to work on that together with partners from the EU side and the Greek authorities, and I hope and I can count also on your support to further keep an eye on us and help us. So I'm a bit quicker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gminder. You made it sharp and fast. Now we move to Mr. Weinbrenner, who is there. So please, Mr. Weinbrenner, if you are there, as you have to leave soon, please make your point. And as I said, if you make it in less than 5 minutes, we thank you for that, because we are in real trouble with a slot of barely 1 hour something for 5 speakers, and then questions and then answers. Please.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so I will be briefer than 5 minutes because much of the things I wanted to say were already mentioned by Beate Gminder. Very briefly, for the German presidency, the situation on the Greek islands and especially the situation in Moria has always been taken very seriously, and Minister Seehofer, just from the beginning, at least after the fires, very much put focus on the humanitarian aspect of the situation. That's why we, together with the Commissioner Johansson, wrote a letter and asked member states to give all kinds of supports necessary and for improving the situation. The German position is based on 2 pillars. First of all, it's asking for solidarity by member states in kind and providing solidarity with own forces. For example, the THV, the Technical Support Service, is on the spot supporting the very valuable efforts by Beate Gminder and her team. And we would absolutely continue in further supporting this very important efforts. So that's pillar number 1. The second pillar the German presidency took is to engage in relocation. That was mentioned already. Altogether, Germany has expressed its willingness to relocate about 2,550 people from Lesbos and the other Greek islands. Unaccompanied minors, sick children, and families in need of protection. So that is something we are doing and asking other member states to follow suit. Last remark from my side is that we from the presidency, against the background of the importance we attach to that subject, raised that point on the Ministerial Council on the 8th of October, where the approach by the Commission was presented and was well recognized and welcomed by member states. That has as well been a subject on SCIFA meetings under AOB, as well as in further other working groups and activities chaired by the presidency. So altogether, like Beate Gminder said, a lot still has to be done, but we already started with lots of things, and the presidency is doing its utmost to support these activities. Thank you so much. I don't have to leave earlier because I changed my schedule, and sorry for the delay.
Thank you. We thank you dearly, Mr. Weinbrenner. Thank you for making your point and also making it short, because, as I said, that'll help. To move on to the following guest speaker, it'll be number 3. It's Mr. Logothetis. He's representative of the Reception Ministry of Migration and Asylum, Secretary General of this ministry. Greek Minister, the floor is yours.
Hello to everyone. Good afternoon from Greece, and actually good afternoon from Samos, where I'm located. I will try to be brief as possible. So we are just 47 days after the disaster of Moria, and I think that we all share the happiness of not having a Moria anymore. So we are through with Moria, which was, for our side, and was expressed by our Prime Minister, a disgrace as a camp for Greece, and we are moving forward. We are looking into better conditions, and we are really grateful that in this effort we will have the complete support of the European Commission with the task force and the office of Mrs. Gminder that is here already 3 times, as she said, and hopefully for more to come. So the challenges that we faced, of course, at the beginning was always safety for all. I think that if we talked something like 2 months ago and we talked about the disaster in Moria, that we will all be really worried about losing lives there, but we managed with the cooperation of all the Greek forces and the NGOs on the field to make all the people leave and evacuate Moria on time without anyone getting injured. The Moria fire was a 3-day fire, and it was really difficult for us to cope at the beginning. Then you had something around 10,000 people living on the streets. So our second priority was to remove all the vulnerable, or the most vulnerable, being the unaccompanied minors and women alone. We managed to evacuate from the island the 405 minors that were there unaccompanied at the time of the fire, and immediately we found 2 shelters to host all the single women that were at the spot. We didn't manage to find space for all, but we at least managed to remove around 150 cases of single women or single women with children. Then the third priority was to find a place for accommodation for all the people that were left on the street. Of course, they were covered already for food and health, with the help of NGOs that were running in the streets up and down and trying to provide help with the coordination of EOD, which is the National Health Organization of Public Health, that is. And I think that we did a good job when in 5 or 6 days, I think, we managed to set up something like 1,262 tents to accommodate people inside the newly formed temporary camp of Mavrovouni, which is in Greek Kara Tepe, so just to get it straight. So it is this area that is currently hosting these 7,500 that are still in Mytilene, after we managed to remove from the island to the mainland another 2,000 people. So out of the 10,000 people that were present around Moria in the day of the fire, now we have managed to remove 2,500 people. And we are still working on the relocation exercise with the German government. Hopefully soon we will have even less people there. After accommodation, safety accommodation, we came into the health thing. And we had the support of WHO together with EOD again and 8 other different NGOs that were inside the camp under the COVID restraints, and we managed to check all people coming in the camp for COVID from the first day they came inside. We actually had quarantine areas, and we managed to separate people who were positive from those that were negative, and we thought that we needed to do that because we had to have health first for the rest of the people that were not COVID positive. After that, we moved to hygiene, toilets, water, wash. All of these things have been the first priority still since, I think, the 10th day that we were there, although we already faced two big challenges of two storms and one of a windstorm. One of these days, Beate was there, so she can verify that it was a really special day with strong winds. I think that the camp is not perfect, as you said. We have a lot of way to go. It would not be perfect in just 47 days. People on the ground, I mean, governmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, and everyone who is working there are really trying hard every day to make things better. It is a work in progress. Drainage is a work in progress. Everything is a work in progress. But I think that we managed so far really well. And I will be glad to answer all the questions for details that you might need to be informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also in time. Now let's move right to Madame Gregori, Nina Gregori, Director of EASO. The floor is yours to report on the camp, which is the surrogate of Moria. The floor is yours. There, Nina Gregori.
I'm Gregori, the floor is yours. Please push the speak button.
Yep.
Okay, hopefully you hear me now.
It's okay.
Mr. Chair, yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, of course, to participate in this debate. As you probably are aware, I have visited Greece and Lesbos last week, and I also visited the temporary reception and identification center close to the old Kara Tepe site. Of course, I also had several meetings with the ministers responsible, so Minister Mytilene and Minister Komoutsakos, also with Minister Logothetes, and I was there with the Madam Gminder, indeed, and I had the opportunity to discuss, of course, the situation now, but also, let's say, the challenges and the measures to be taking forward all together as a team, as partners in this respect. Clearly, we know that, of course, the temporary reception facility now in Kara Tepe is, of course, an emergency response following the fire in Moria, and I need to say that, of course, the Greek authorities are trying very hard to alleviate the situation there and to, in a way, prepare these temporary shelters also for the bad weather to come. And, of course, we are trying to contribute as the agency to this emergency response, including with redeploying our range of staff directly to Lesbos. Currently, EASO has more than 500 people working under the EASO umbrella in Greece, and we have more than 80 personnel who are working directly with Greek authorities in Lesbos. This includes case workers, information providers, registration officers, but also, of course, vulnerability experts and reception experts. Looking ahead, we are now also working with the Commission and the Greek authorities in relation to the task force that is led by Madam Gminder, and I think that it's quite clear that we need to still define, our work, our responsibilities, but also, of course, the work and responsibilities of all the actors which are going to be participating in this task force. We definitely are ready to support the Greek authorities with design, with workflow, with management of the new reception centers according to the EU standards, because, of course, this is the prerogative now. Our role to support the Greek authorities will be definitely factored into our new operating plan, which is now being prepared together with the Greek authorities and the Commission for the year of 2021, because this is, of course, the basis for our support to any member states where we operate. And you know very well that at the same time, if we will do this, of course, support, we will also, let's say, need to secure our budget, and this would depend on the final budget that is granted to EASO for the forthcoming period by the budgetary, of course, authorities. If we take a look at the overall support that EASO now has in Greece, we are still present, of course, in other locations. We are there in 44 locations in Greece, and despite of the COVID-19 pandemic this year, I need to say that we have done already now more than 10,000 interviews and concluding remarks this year, and also we have done more than 40% of all registration of applications in Greece, and we did 75% of all best assessment of children, best assessment of child interest in the pilot project of the relocation to other member states. So before I conclude, just allow me, please, to have a word on the agency's mandate and resources. As said, we are providing a lot of support, and this, I think it's a critical support when we discuss the Greek situation now. But of course, all of this required resources, and I need to use this opportunity to extend my appreciation to you in the LIBE committee for your acknowledgement of EASO work and your support in relation to EASO's resources for the draft budget of 2021, because without that we will not be successful. Of course, we will not be able to support Greece and other member states on the fourth line. We need, of course, also new mandate. We need sustainable solution, and therefore I'm really happy that the Commission have called on to the co-legislator with the presentation of the Pact on Migration and Asylum to, in a way, push forward the new regulation on the EU Asylum Agency. And I'm happy that also German presidency did take this into consideration with their step-by-step approach. And I really do hope that, of course, the Parliament, as important co-legislator with the work, will support the fast and efficient conclusion of the EUAA regulation adoption. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Gregori, right on time, but we still have another speaker to go through. Madame Pontieu, if you please, Médecins Sans Frontières, if you please may take the floor for the, make it in less than 5 minutes, because we have a long list of speakers willing to break through. Please, are you there? Madame Pontieu, vous avez la parole. Il faut prémer le bouton.
Press the button, please.
Nope. Il n'est pas prêt. Vous êtes là.
Are you there?
Are you there?
On vous écoute.
Madame Pontieu.
We can hear you.
On ne les voit pas. Il faut pousser le bouton.
We can't see you. Can you please press the button to connect micro and camera?
Il n'a pas de caméra.
Il n'y a pas de caméra?
No.
There is no camera. Well then, well, if there is no camera, it will be impossible, unfortunately.
Il y a la caméra, il y a tout?
Ouais.
Yeah, okay. On est connecté.
Good evening, sorry for that. I was pressing the speak button, but it was not working. Can you hear me well now?
Yep.
Hello? Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you to the LIBE committee for inviting MSF to this meeting. As you can imagine, I'm not going to give a very rosy picture of the situation now on Lesbos. We've shared many times our views and information with the committee about the situation, in particular about the health situations on the island for many years. MSF has been working on Lesbos since 2015, and we've seen many different types of crises. I think it's important to remember that the fire is not the cause of the crisis, it's a consequence. And we should not look at the current situation as a response to a fire, but go back to the factors that have led to this crisis. And it's the system that is to blame. We have been promised no more Morias. I would like to say that we still have Morias. The new Kara Tepe camp is another Moria. The Samos Reception and Identification Center in Vati is based on the same system and replicates the same suffering and gaps in services that we have seen inside Moria. So I would really urge the Libe Committee to try to draw some lessons learned from this situation. As well, we've seen many other crises this year. It's been a very difficult year for asylum seekers in the Greek islands. We have, of course, the COVID outbreak. It was incredibly difficult to manage a public health response in this context. Unfortunately, we have to observe that migration control agendas have taken precedence over individual and public health. We have seen very worrying practices of collective quarantine in unsafe, undignified conditions. These practices have been one of the reasons of the fire in Moria, and they continue to be implemented inside other hotspots on the Greek islands today. The Kara Tepe camp doesn't offer standard conditions. They should not be celebrated at all. They are still below EU standards. People have still no access to enough hygiene and water and sanitation facilities. They are still not able to properly protect themselves from COVID-19. Despite the fact there are indeed medical actors present in the camp and MSF is not working inside the camp, there's still gaps in the provision of healthcare, in particular for vaccination, but also for the management of scabies and other diseases, and mental health is still a gap as well. I would like to say that we can be very glad that this year we have seen hundreds of people being relocated, evacuated from the Greek island. We have pushed for that for years. We've seen many children being relocated to other EU countries. This is very positive, but it's still unacceptable that we have to wait for many months and people to get sick and severely ill and severely depressed so that they can be offered just the minimum, which is access to fair asylum procedure and a safe place where they can be received. So I would really urge the Libe Committee to try to push the European Commission to draw some lessons learned from this experience and not to replicate another system of containment. These multi-purpose centers that we are hearing about are being built already or will be built on the Greek island. They should have only one purpose, which is the safe transit of people who are arriving at the EU borders. It means no more entrapment of people, no more containment on the island. And this is really important if we don't want to see more Morias and replication of this crisis that we have seen this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We thank you for your testimony, Médecins Sans Frontières. Now, let's open the floor. We have first the usual round of speakers by the political groups, and then an additional list, a second round, speakers willing to make their points and address questions. So I suggest 2 minutes maximum the first round, have it in mind, and 1 minute maximum the second round. So we'll have on board as many as possible. Get started with the EPP. Remote, Thomas Tobé. There you go. Please. Mr. Tobé, dear colleague, are you ready? Yes, you are.
Good evening and thank you, Chair. We all witnessed the fires of the Moria camp in horror and with concern regarding the people that was affected. But I think it's also important to say, and especially from EPP, that we really now see the efforts that have been made, both from the Commission, but I must also highlight from the Greek authorities. It is quite clear that Greece and especially the islands are under pressure, but so is Malta, so is Italy and Cyprus, and basically this just highlights the problems that we have with our common European migration policy. And of course, as the chair mentioned and several of the speakers have mentioned, of course we will discuss and hopefully we will finally make some progress with the new pact that has been introduced. With our several elements that are positive and that we can work on together. But it's quite clear for me that we need now to find a system where we can secure the borders. We need to strengthen the external borders. But of course, at the same time, we need to have more solidarity with our frontline states. And we also need to have a bigger difference between refugees coming that have the right to asylum and protection in Europe. And of course, the big number of people coming to Europe that are more of economic migrants, because this is causing a lot of pressure. But with the regards to the Kara Tepe camp, I would like to ask two questions. Firstly, are there any actions that will be taken by the Commission in near time that could release some of the pressure that we see on the Greek islands and in the Kara Tepe camp? And secondly, the Commission confirmed in September that it will initiate a pilot for a new reception center.
Please, Mr.
in Lesbos.
if you come to an end.
Yes, in Lesbos. So could we please just hear some more? Is it how ready is it basically? So thank you.
Very much, dear Thomas. Have it in mind. The rest of you, it'll be 2 minutes for the first round, 1 minute for the second. Try to make it. Kati Piri, online. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for putting this on the agenda, which was also one of the priorities of the S&D group, because as actually was described by the representative of the MSF, we are doing this hearing not because we have the feeling that things are going so smoothly and so well, despite all the diplomatic words that we heard during the presentations. We are seeing the pictures, and despite all of us having said no more Morias, what we see is worse than was the already horrible Moria camp happening now. And I don't think we have to mince words in where we all fail in taking our responsibility of protecting the real victims of this. And the real victims are not the so-called frontline states or member states under pressure. The real victims are the people who are in a very horrible situation and who have the right to ask for asylum under decent conditions. So let me ask the representative of the European Commission Task Force and the German presidency. For the winter, will the people stay in tents? How many have been evacuated from the islands to the mainland in the last 7 weeks since we had the fire? When is the sanitation ready? And how many people have been relocated to other member states? We just heard the Dutch Prime Minister in the Dutch Senate. There was a commitment to relocate 100 people. The commitment was done 7 weeks ago. Not a single person arrived yet in the Netherlands. What's the reason for that? And also in general, we have spent as the European Union 2.64 billion euros the last 5 years on providing decent capacities in Greece, and we collectively failed in that. So what is the lesson that we can learn for this winter? And finally, Chairman, in my last 10 seconds, let me say we are talking here about Greece. I hope that also in the LIBE committee on these very serious allegations, we know the pushbacks are happening despite the denials by the Greek government, and we now also have allegations of Frontex being associated with this, and I very much hope that in the LIBE committee we can take this up seriously and very soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I repeat, it's 2 minutes, not 2 minutes and a half. Please, Sophie in 't Veld, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I find this a difficult debate because we're turning around in circles. We've been having this debate for the last 5 years now. And every year we express our horror and shock and disbelief over the fact that on the richest continent in the world, we let people sleep in tents throughout the winter. Women, children, pregnant women, sick people. And I wonder, earlier this year, in March I believe, we had a big debate here in this House on whether or not to agree to the allocation of 350 million euros to Greece for better housing for the asylum seekers. What happened to the money? Where's the money? Why do we send 350 million and people still sleep in tents? I'm not really sure what your mimics mean there, but... I'm
following, of course.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking. I would like to state my mind myself, but I'm chairing. So
okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay, sorry, I was distracted a little bit by that. But no, I want to know where is the money. I also would like to know, because, you know, we get these oral presentations that are very rapid. The online connection doesn't make it easy to follow. I have no idea about the figures. You know, how many people have been, I don't know, relocated to the mainland? How many people went from the tent camp into, you know, proper homes? How many people have been relocated to other countries? We need facts and figures, and we need it now. And quite frankly, Chair, next time the European Commission comes knocking on the door of the European Parliament asking for money for the Greek government, you know, they're not going to get a yes from me, because that is wasted money. If we spend taxpayers' money in order to house people in tents in the middle of winter, then I really see no reason why this House should agree to further funding.
Thank you for making your point and making it in time. As I said, I feel very strongly about this issue and about the way we, as you described it, we round in circles time and again, and comparing this Moria with other Morias across the European landscape. But I'm sharing, so I'd rather save time for the speakers. The following floor goes to Onorevole Tardino. Heidi, lei ha la parola.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentations which delved into this matter, but I have a few questions. First of all, in which way are Greek authorities in cooperation with your aid agencies looking after the health of people in these camps? Because the health situation is getting out of control. Many people are testing positive for the virus. And the situation in Greece is similar to that in Sicily. I'd also like to ask if there have been any attempts to violate quarantine or to flee from the camps. And also a comment, if I may. I would like to hear if you've heard of in your opinion, of Greek government investigation into Turkish interference and perhaps espionage near the Greek coast. And I'd like to know how many people in these camps have been granted the title of refugees and how many are economic migrants. And are you foreseeing the consequences of forced repatriation? And a wider ranging question to the Commission: in what way is the new migration package aimed at preventing situations such as what we see today in Greece and Sicily, when member states of first arrival will have to deal with further procedures? Thank you.
Zum den Grünen, die Fraktion den Grünen mit Erik Marquardt. 2 Minuten bitte. Herr Marquardt.
Marquardt, you have the floor. Please push the speak
button.
I do.
Jetzt.
Do you hear me now?
Ja.
Thank you. Ich werde auf Deutsch reden.
I'll speak German. I get the feeling as well that this is not the first time that we're discussing this, and this is not the first time that we're hearing about the situation and what we need to do to improve it. I was on Lesbos for 5 weeks, and I found more questions there than answers. And it starts with the details. How come press representatives are not allowed to report from there? How come the Greek police are removing the press representatives there? We know that when it rains there as well, that it gets very muddy. Well, how come that's not being improved? And how come NGOs don't have sufficient access? And you say Greece is under attack. If we retreat, it will look like Greece has been defeated. This is why the migrants are doing, after doing what they did in Moria, will stay in the streets.
Das hört sich ja nach kollektiv.
I mean, it hears like a collective punishment. Is that over, or is it still ongoing? That was a quote from you, so perhaps you can say something about that. And why will other camps be closed by the end of the year, and why are NGOs getting fines for treating people better? So I'd like to ask the Commission, can you make sure that heavy metals are not or are removed from these boats? Apparently this is a risk for children. How can we be sure that these camps are not contaminated? I'm sure this is not the last time we'll be discussing this.
Mal weiter. Vielen Dank.
I'll tell you more another time.
Now we move to ECR group. It's Asita Kanko online. If you're connected, floor goes to you. Bottom, yes. Bottom, yes.
Yes, I found the speak button. Thank you very much, Chair. The people and government of Greece have faced huge challenges in recent years and unprecedented numbers of arrivals and threats from Turkey at their border. Their huge efforts for European solidarity must be acknowledged. However, we must also acknowledge that the conditions which many asylum refugees live in the Greece camps are not acceptable by Western democracy standards. No matter the circumstances, human dignity is not up for discussion. We are not a union of disposable values and fundamental rights. The EU's financial assistance is there to ensure these standards are being maintained. The rules, even if they are not perfect, must be applied across the Union. The Greek and the EU's migration system was never set up to cope with the numbers it has been seeing in the past 5 years. To alleviate this situation means tackling the root causes of the migrant crisis, not building more and more so-called modern camps for years to come. That is only a sticking plaster on a much broader problem. Only through increasing returns, better external borders controls, better cooperation with third countries, and creating more opportunities in key regions of the world will we find the right policies for this pressing situation. Can the Commission please tell us whether it intends to step up the monitoring of conditions within camps and closer monitoring of EU funds used in this area? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Letztlich, wir kommen zu der GUE-Fraktion. Es ist Cornelia Ernst.
Cornelia Ernst for the GUE, 2 minutes. Thank you. We met many refugees. They told us that it's worse than Moria, that it's a nightmare, it's very wet and muddy, they have no running water, not enough food, unhygienic conditions, the toilets are terrible. These are conditions where I have to say I have no understanding for the Commissioner or Mr. Skinas not being here today. These are things that needed to be addressed. Let me ask, the Commission, first of all. Apparently, this is a transitional solution, a transitional camp. I'd like to know if that's the case. I want to know now when this camp will be closed. Can you give me the exact date? Or are you going to say that this tent camp is going to remain over the winter? Second question. Look at the reception directive, where it talks about reasonable living conditions. Can you say that these tent camps have reasonable living conditions? Do you think that's feasible? And to Council now a question. Why is Council not using the voluntary offers to take refugees in Member States? There are 200 municipalities in Germany who would be prepared and are in a position to accept those refugees. There are places in Portugal and Spain that are offering that solidarity. So why is Council not picking up on these voluntary offers? Why do people have to stay on these islands even longer?
Second round of speakers. We have completed the first round, and it's actually large. So please help to bring as many as possible. If you make it in 1 minute, getting started with Nathalie Colin Estelle, which is actually in the room. The floor goes to you. Please make it in 1 minute. Make sharp questions, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, le camp de Kara Tepe.
Well, the camp was set up not that long ago, and it's very similar to Moria with the winter weather and the water. Congratulate the Greek government for setting up a solid and permanent facility in Lesbos by 2021. Greece, Malta, Cyprus and Italy cannot bear the whole burden. We want to have solidarity with our European partners. We've been open and fair to those that wish to come and work legally. We have to be firm with those candidates that are not eligible and intransigent with traffickers. Protection of our borders is not negotiable. Protecting our borders means protecting European citizens first and foremost. According to certain NGOs, COVID-19 rules are insufficient. A health check before entry onto the territory is a good thing. The pandemic encourages to have hygiene rules throughout Europe, including in those camps. Commission and Council should do everything possible to make sure that those checks are carried out, and I encourage them to establish health conditions in the camps.
In the EPP, I got listed at least 4 of you, so it could only be you. If you make it so large in your first floor, then there's no room for anybody else. So please have it in mind. Make it in 1 minute. Try to phrase it. Before taking the floor, try to phrase. If you have it in writing, make it shorter. And summarize. Make it in 1 minute. Pietro Bartolo, S&D. Lei la parola. Pietro Bartolo.
Pietro Bartolo, you have the floor. Are you online?
Eccoci, riesce?
Are you connected?
Speak button.
Pietro? Preme il bottone. Pietro? Nope. Ci riesce? Ah sì, eccolo. Pietro Bartolo. Scusa Pietro, non ti sentiamo. Scusa Pietro, non ti...
We cannot hear you, Pietro. You have no sound. You need to press the microphone button, please. We cannot hear you.
Prego. Il volume, qualcosa? Aspettiamo un attimo.
We'll wait a moment to see if you can connect.
This is an icon on the top left.
Ecco, adesso ti sentiamo.
Now we can hear you. Okay, pardon me, technical issues. Thank you, Chair. Allow me a comment. All this year, speaking of the Greek islands, we have forgotten that we're speaking about people who are living in extreme sanitary conditions. How can we have abandoned thousands of people in this situation? The Greek islands model has failed. We have tens of thousands of migrants who have no access to international protection or basic health. So things are now worse than they were before. There is no right to applying for asylum. They're even getting negative replies, and they only have 1 week to apply. Lawyers can't meet their clients. And what's happening in Greece cannot be the basis for the reform of our common asylum policy. We cannot continue blocking thousands of people at our doorstep and at our borders. First of all, we need to see who has arrived in Europe, and then we have to see what to do with them. If we keep up this pace, we'll be talking about this 100 years from now. And these wretched souls are suffering. Let's think about that for a moment.
Adesso, Renew, Maite Pagasartundua. Un minuto. ¿No está?
Not online.
¿No está conectada? Ok, no está conectada. Then ID Nikolaus Fest. Es ist in Verbindung. Keine Nikolaus Fest. Danach, es ist Grune, Tineke Street.
Tineke Street for the Greens.
Nope. Tineke? Nope. Then, Damian, eh?
Yeah. I'm there. Sorry. Thank you, Chair, and thanks for all the speakers. And it's clear Greece is a hell at the moment for refugees. I mean, the pushbacks are not a topic for this hearing, but we will talk about this and investigate that. And I would already please call upon the Commission to take human rights violations seriously. But also, if they have arrived and are in the camps, there are no mattresses, no showers, hours-long queues and a lack of everything. It looks like we don't have any rules on reception conditions in the EU, but we have. So can you please make sure, Commission, and tell us, do you really expect that those standards can be met anyhow on the Greek island? And if so, why don't we evacuate the people from there? How can we keep on accepting this situation? And also to the German presidency, what can you do more in order to put pressure on the member states for more relocation? And also the question that Eric Makar posed, why are the better camps closed? Does it make any sense to do that? Can you tell a bit more about the asylum procedures? Are they resumed? Do people have access to legal aid? And did the Commission already analyze the legislation on Greece, also regarding the restrictions of the NGOs, which are very concerning? And also about the new centers, can the Commission ensure that they will not end up in closed centers and containment? I think this
more
is
than enough.
Thank you.
More than enough. Thank you. Now, Kostas Arvanitis, are you there? Kostas Arvanitis, 1 minute. Phrase it in 1 minute, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If Moria is the same, then what is Kara Tepe and who does the same belong to? Now, I was not surprised at all by the location of Kara Tepe, and we have seen it in the site in Ceres, Klidi. It's exactly the same. It's just a bit larger. It's the same architectural logic. Tent on the ground, bad hygiene, no running water. The new Kara Tepe is like Klidi on a larger scale. We had warned months ago that the place is not suitable. It's on the beach. It's hit by winds. It used to be a firing range. And unfortunately, we were confirmed by the facts. I mean, people ended up in the sea, in the mud, and in the rain, and you are proud for that. We asked for the two sites, the two prototype sites not to be shut down. You ignored us and you shut them down. Why are you insisting like that? Do you want mammoth camps of 10,000 people under these conditions? I mean, this is not solidarity. This looks like a Middle Eastern concentration camp. And I would like to see another thing. We see a lot of money being spent, and this is money of the European taxpayer. We should see exactly where that money has ended. We should look into it.
I'm going to try to catch up still some other members which are listed before turning back to our speakers, because they would have the final say. But I insist, make it in less than 1 minute. So please refrain from phrasing that this is an awful shame, because it's been said in all of the official languages of the European Union time and again. Refrain from saying that you have warned time and again that this is a disaster. Please just address some questions to the speakers so that we can have you on board. It'll be Lena Dupont. Sie haben das Wort. In Verbindung.
Ja, vielen Dank, Chair, und vielen Dank auch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the representative of the organisations, Council, Commission and NGOs for their views. I think it's good that we do have the task force in order to address our claims. I know we don't have much time, but so just a quick couple of points. I'd like to know more about cooperation between the European agencies with member states under the coordination of the Commission and the task force. How is that supposed to work? I'd like to know a bit more about the following. We've heard about the difference between the pilot project and the emergency accommodation, but we still have the 5 accommodations on the different islands that are supposed to be built up into the summer. So can you say something about that? And thirdly, what is the situation vis-à-vis Turkey and the aggression? How is that impacting the islands and the situation in Greece?
Dietmar Koster. In Verbindung. Liebe Kollege Koster. Dietmar.
Dietmar Koster, are you connected?
Ich hoffe, ich bin jetzt zu hören. Vielen Dank, Herr Vorsitzender. Wahrscheinlich bin ich nicht zu sehen, weil die Kamera nicht funktioniert.
Unfortunately, when there is no picture, the interpreters cannot interpret.
Perhaps we can try it without a camera. If I speak in English, that would be fine.
Okay, then make it in English. It'll make it easier.
Okay, thank you very much. I must really complain about the fact that the previous speakers paint such a picture that everything would be fine on the island. This cannot be respected. And I must say, in the previous committees, we often discussed with Frontex which role they are playing, and we often discussed the question whether Frontex is involved in illegal pushbacks, and they always denied that they are in it. And now there are really true and empirical evidences that Frontex is involved in this. And so again, we are witnessing such descriptions which make everything fine. I cannot accept this. My question is, the situation of the refugees is really precarious, and I want to know whether there is also access to medical, psychosocial and legal support. We have a report of a lawyer who mentioned that there is no room for speaking with the refugees, and is it ensured that the lawyers can support the refugees legally? Thank you.
Thank you. And I still have one which is Isabel Santos. If you're there, make it in less than 1 minute and we'll turn back to our speakers. It'll be the final. Isabel Santos, are you there? Connected? No? No connected. No. Then back to the speakers. We might have, let's see, some 20 minutes to go. So how about for the 4 of you who are still there, alive, how about 5 minutes each? The 4 speakers, okay? To reply to the questions that have been addressed by the members. First floor to Mrs. Gminder. Can you make it? Mrs. Gminder, could you make it? Are you trying to?
I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you for all these interesting and valuable contributions. And I think we have to recognize that a temporary camp is not a perfect camp, and that's also what we all said in the beginning. It's been a response to an emergency situation, and I think everyone has done the best they could at the time for the time being. When I was last there, which is last week, the camp was in an orderly situation, and I have seen that myself. As I said, I discussed also with the NGOs. What is temporary? Temporary will not be forever, but it will also take time to build a new multi-purpose reception center, which will not be closed, but will have controlled entry and exit, because this is also allowed under the Reception Condition Directive. The time frame for this is ambitious. We want to be as quickly as we can. We want to be ready by next autumn, but obviously, this depends on many factors like procurement, like construction, like also, discussions with the local population, which, is not that easy and which has a difficult time with the entire situation. So we're doing our best there. But I cannot give you the exact date for the.
Excuse me, Mrs. Gminder. I have been reported that actually Mr. Weinbrenner is still here, still with us. Yeah. So if we are to count another speaker to have a second reply, please make it in 3 minutes, 3 minutes and a half each. Because you are 5.
But I'm in 1:35, so I still have a little bit of time. So we have, I think the Greek authorities have evacuated 2,000 people since the fire. There's 1,363 people who have been relocated. And, I think Mrs. Interfeld is right. We should give you a full report with all the statistics, and we're happy to do so, and we will follow up on this. We do fund a lot, and you have rightly remarked that. And we use this funding because in the last 5 years, we had a full congestion of migrants and refugees in Greece, and it's not easy to find appropriate means to deal with that at all fronts. So over the past 5 years, we have given a lot of support for the reception system, mainly in camps, which is managed through IOM, and secondly, UNHCR, who is managing a cash assistance to refugee and also apartments. This alone costs nearly 350 million a year. And the 350 million you have given us in the beginning of this year have been used for that. The additional 350 million you have been giving to us to support the Greek state is to build new reception centers on the Greek islands. And this is the one we're also doing in Lesbos. But on the other islands, the procedure and the procurement is already more advanced, particularly for Kos, Leros and Samos. The contract for the construction has already been signed. So this is a positive story. I will then finish here and leave to the next speakers to reply to the other questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gminder. We know that you are in a rush. We all are. Herr Weinbrenner, wir bedanken. Sie haben geblieben mit uns. Sie haben das Wort. 3 Minuten und halb.
You have the floor. 3.5 minutes.
English, and I even am not. Will require all the time you gave me. First of all, Beate Gminder already gave the relocation numbers. Germany, together with as a presidency, together with the commissioner, addressed member states to show solidarity via relocation. That was the case in a letter dated 14th of September, just less than 1 week after the fires in Moria, when the situation developed there. So that's not pressure on member states like Tinnikus Strik asked us, but at least that's all we could do. We thought we could do from the presidency side together with the Commission in order to ask member states to show solidarity. Beate Gminde already mentioned the figures. Germany has, as I mentioned already, 2,750 people relocated, given its accord to that, and 1,009 people have entered Germany by 22nd of October. So 1,009 is the number of people who have already been brought to Germany, and that's an ongoing effort. We have seven member states who have already informed us that they are willing to relocate people who have already granted asylum in Greece. We have 12 member states who have been informing us and the Commission that they are willing to accept unaccompanied minors, and 4 member states and third countries, Norway is included, who have agreed to relocate other asylum seekers from the island. So that's quite a lot, but never enough. But one last sentence is that the actual Greek government and the Commission, as it is acting now, is very, very keen on that question, and I think we have never been that far in improving the situation on the Greek islands as we are now. Thank you.
Excuse me, the mic was off. Thank you, Mr. Weinbrenner. Now we move to Mr. Logothetis. If you make it in 3.5 minutes, please, because we're running out of time. Can you make your short remarks as a reaction to the questions that have been addressed, please?
Hello again. Yes, I will try to do my best to finish in 3.5 minutes. I have so many questions noted down, some of them concerning the medical PSS and legal access. I can verify that all the NGOs that were present on the ground are already inside, except MSF, who made a clear choice to stay outside of the camp. All the rest that were present, and even more, were on the ground, so people have access to a medical area that has more than 130 people as personnel, and we already have 2 mobile units inside the camp supplying, in the areas of accommodation with, you know what a mobile unit is, with an ambulance to carry people out to the hospital area of the camp. So I think that we have that covered in a way that has never been covered in the past. And just to know, I was the only doctor in Samos for the last 4 years, from 2015 to 2019, so I know what I'm talking about. So I was in the field, and the medical care that is present in the camp of Kara Tepe currently, Mavrovouni, has never been there for the beneficiaries in the past. We have WHO coordinating with the National Medical Organization, and I think we have that covered. Concerning the press entrance, I can verify you that they had an ordinate press entrance time every day. They could access the camp, and we had actually a case where they behaved as a zoo, and we were really offended. So were the beneficiaries. They came inside with cameras to take all the pictures of the beneficiaries, and we are there to protect the people from being exposed in their private moments. But they are there every day, and they can have an ordinate access to the camp. So the press is allowed to go inside. So are all the NGOs. All the NGOs who asked to come inside the camp, even if they were not registered in the new registry of the Greek government, they were allowed under the special circumstances to enter the camp and offer what they had to offer. So we made no, let's say, restriction to any of the NGOs from day one. Mr. Arvanitis made a quote concerning Clivi. I have to tell you that he visited 2 months ago. Currently in Clivi, Ceres, the camp that was with tents is now with the Austrian containers, Ceres show 95% of the people who are situated in Clivi are already staying in containers, and this was a clear choice because Ceres is far north in Greece and the weather conditions were really heavy or will be really heavy, so we changed all the tents to containers already. Concerning the flooding, I have to inform everyone that in the first rain, only 6 tents were flooded. In the second rain, we had an even greater strength. Something around 22 tents were flooded. These tents were already changed, and now we are facing a new era with almost 100% of the tents being already winterized to sustain the pressure that they can sustain for the time that is needed until we replace them with even better conditions. There were some quotes concerning the cost increase, and I have to tell you that this is something that is changing. We are reducing the cost in all the programs, and we have been locally accused by the NGOs running the programs of decreasing the cost. But we respect the taxpayers' money, and we think that it should be more cost efficient as a program without reducing any of the services that the beneficiaries are receiving. I have to make a quote also for Mr. Marquardt Eric, who made a personal quote for me. It was a statement that was lost in translation. I stated clearly that we are here in that meeting in order not to care about the people who are on the road, but to improve the conditions that are supposed to host them. Why? Because it was a coordination meeting for the new camp. So we were at that moment focusing on how we could make the new camp work. This is why I said, and maybe I got misinterpreted, that for this meeting we care for the people not that are outside, but for those that are going to come inside, so we have to improve the situation in the camp. I have to tell you about the European standards, that this camp is considered still an emergency camp, and we are already fulfilling all the criteria of an emergency camp. Soon we will be able to tell you that we fulfill the criteria of a temporary camp, I think in a month from now, and then they will be up to the standards that we have for an emergency or a temporary. If you ask me, we have to make it that good in this temporary camp that we fulfill the criteria of a permanent camp before we move to a permanent camp. But we do everything that is physically doable, possible. Otherwise, we could not deliver more than God allow us every day. Concerning the legal, and that's the last one.
Please make it short, because we're running out.
Yes, we're running out. Currently 2 NGOs, they have free access, and there is a special area in the camp, a tent, but a special area designated for the legal aid. I think by the end of the next month we will have containers for all the administration services in the camp. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Logothetis. You made your points. You had every right to do so, but let's move to Mrs. Gregoria, Director of EASO. The floor goes to you, Nina. Please. Please, Nina. Big button, image. You there?
I think I made it. I tried to press the button. I'm not good with technology. It's not only the button, it's a lot of buttons, but then still, I will be very short. So 1 minute. Of course, our work will definitely continue in Greece. I will mention 2 pillars. One is definitely the operating plan for 2021, and here we are preparing this together with the Greek authorities according to the needs assessment. We still will be present in Greece to do all stages of asylum procedures and the reception, the relocation of minors, and of course we will also support the relocation of acknowledged refugees, which is now going on in Greece and will continue in 2021. You know that the majority of my operational budget goes to Greece, and this will remain as such. The second pillar is, of course, our concrete contribution to the success of the task force, and I'm very sure that under the leadership of Madam Minder, this is going to be definitely a good story and success story. I mean, in the benefit of all the asylum seekers who are there in the temporary camp, living under difficult conditions, and we will help to construct the new permanent reception center on Lesbos. This is, of course, something that we need to assure for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. also for making it so short. Let's move to Madame Pontier. She will be the final floor before coming to the conclusion of this discussion. Médecins Sans Frontières, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. No, thank you for the very good points that were raised by the floor. I think it's indeed important for us to again repeat that we've been told that things would get better every year since we had started working on Lesbos, and they never get better. And they will never get better because there is a fundamental problem in the way the system is built. The system is built on pure illusions. First, the illusion that you can stop people from coming to the EU external borders. This is not happening unless you're indeed pushing them back at sea and then actively violating international law. Second, that you can triage people in a few days, that they come with a sticker on their head that says either economic migrant or refugees. This is not the reality. And third, that you can keep people on islands, on tiny islands, while you process them and return them. This is an illusion that has been the basis of the system for too long. And as long as we stick to this system, then we will see another crisis. So indeed, we are very worried that people are going to spend the winter in these tents, and they are going to spend the winter there. There's no concrete plan or concrete actions that will prevent that from happening. There is no new camp. This is the camp. And we still have a lot of patients that are waiting to be relocated, including people that are at risk if they contract COVID-19, victims of torture, children with mental health problems. We have a list that we can share with MEPs if they are interested. So we need to continue evacuating the islands and building a new system that is not based on the same system, because it's going to be a repetition of the same chaos that has been lasting for too long on the island.
Thank you so much, Madame Pontier. It's been a very interesting discussion. Are you really wanted to break in? Make it short.
Can I just 10 seconds? First of all, yes, I would like to receive the figures that Mrs. Bourdieu was just referring to. And secondly, Mrs. Gminden promised us to give us a breakdown of the way the 350 million has been spent. I would also like to request the European Commission to give us a complete overview of all the people who have been relocated, moved to other places from the Commission, and I hope that you can do that without resorting to a very long, time-consuming bureaucratic procedure, so that we can get those figures like next week.
Points taken, point noted. I'm only to say that it's been a fruitful discussion, I guess. It's been quite an interesting round, and incredible as it might seem, one of these absolutely overcrowded and impossible to manage orders of the day of the Libe Committee, to which we are so keen, has been handled out in time. We made it. Incredible as it might seem, we had 5 speakers in a row, 5 rounds of reply, and every member which was in the list to make their questions did actually make it. So I thank you all for your cooperation and for your forgiving understanding of the misery that these very tight and restrained slots are imposing on the conditions of our work. Thank you all. We made it. The interpreters, we don't have to thank them in addition for the time they spared, because we actually made it. Thank you all, and we will be resuming our work November the 9th. November the 9th by 16:45. Okay. Afternoon session again, November the 9th. Till then, have a nice evening.